I'm Jay Verno. I'm president of Hagen Business Machines. So I took my first job, believe it or not, as a buyer at Macy's Midwest Department Stores in Kansas City. And I was fortunate enough, I had basically a job offer before I graduated from Penn State. I moved out to Kansas City with everything that I owned in my 1971 Cutlass and played a lot of, going to Kansas City by the Beatles on my way out there. It was a exciting time, being, I think I was probably 21 at the time, moving out there, and I wasn't alone though. They actually had an executive training program, so they would hire students from throughout the United States, bring them in, and we all were in the same classes together to learn. In this case, it was a retail business. And I think a lot of people might be surprised to know that I actually started my career as the assistant buyer, managing the, it was ties and accessories. So I went in and we had a lot of people come in to show us their wares. And of course, there was multiple types of, back then ties were very, very prevalent in business. And Macy's did a big business of men's ties. We also ended up carrying things like handkerchiefs and socks and things like that. So it was quite a learning experience. After about a year of that, I had a cousin who was working for a small company in Erie, Pennsylvania called Hagen Business Machines. And she told me that there was a job opening for someone in sales for the local office, and that if I was interested in sales and or moving back to this area, that I should at least put my resume in. I did that, and immediately I got a call that at least they would bring me in for an interview and see if it was a good fit. I went in and was totally sold on the idea of a small, locally owned company versus the big conglomerates that I'd been working with. Not that they were bad companies, but I just didn't feel like I had enough, I'll say, impetus and change. Things that need to be changed many times would take a long time if they ever happened at all. Even when it was clear cut that something needed to be changed, it didn't always happen. Whereas with the smaller company, I get the distinct impression that I would have more of a voice. So I started in November of 1985. So that puts me on my 35-year anniversary coming up here in November. So I've been in this industry for 35 years, working for Hagen Business Machines of Erie, which then 7 years later I had the opportunity to buy the Meadville location of that organization, and he split it off so that we could buy this location, and have been working here as a part owner since 1992. My spark is helping clients to become more efficient. We're trying to help them do more with their businesses, do more for their clients with less investment or less time. A day in my life is one where you're never going to necessarily know exactly what you're going to work on. It definitely can start off with a plan, and I usually do have a pretty tight schedule in terms of different things that I should get done. Not the least is I usually check every morning. I'm doing the financial ends of the business, whether it be the banking, look at the credit situations, looking at the numbers. You know, a wise friend of mine said, if you don't get the numbers right, you're not going to get anything right. So I focus every day when I wake up. One of the first things I do is take a look at the health of the business financially, the numbers. After that, I spent a lot of time with communications with my staff and or working on communications with clients or potential clients. So I am lucky in that I like the advertising and communication side of things, and that's what I went to school for. So I get to use that every day and talk to people about, in effect, what we're trying to convey, whether it be sales calls, person-to-person kind of interactions, or in the case of marketing or advertising, try to get a new message or a new concept out there. And I guess that's the beauty of that is I like doing it. The bad side of that is I can't spend as much time doing as I would normally like to. So sometimes I feel like I haven't spent enough time on it, but I look at that and you just chip away every day at it, and sooner or later you have results. The other part of my business day that I think a lot of people don't realize is that every day you have to have some kind of problem solving. It could be a very small problem. It could be really, really mundane, or it could be a major problem. But for me, the challenge is every day I'm usually dealing with some kind of problem, and I'm looking for different ways to solve it, which would be the least obtrusive. You know, if it's a just do it solution, that's easy. But sometimes you have to identify for your staff what is something that you should just do. Hey, we can solve this. Let's do this. Other times it involves a team. It involves getting information and input from the people, the stakeholders, if you will, in terms of what the problem is and how you can come up with ideas, because usually one person's not going to have the best answer. One person may have a good answer, but it's better for us to share it amongst a group, get input, and then figure out, okay, what's the best answer for us at this time, at this point in time. And I think that's been one of the hallmarks of Hagen, is we were always small enough that we could get teams oriented and say, okay, here's a problem we're having. What's your suggestions? What things do you think we could do? And then sooner or later, my business partner and myself would say, okay, this is what we think we want to do and why. And if you've had that buy-in from the beginning, generally speaking, those changes are much easier to accomplish. I think the most positive things in my daily work life are client testimonials. When I get a client who makes a special effort to reach out to me or my business partner about how we've taken care of them, or maybe one of our individuals has helped them in a business situation. Usually it's a business problem, and they take care of it. That, as a business owner and as a person, definitely rewards me for the times when things aren't going the way you want them to. So, you know, and we're fortunate here. We hear a lot of good client feedback. Matter of fact, I can tell you over the years, that was one of the main things we did, was we wanted to make sure our customers weren't just happier, we wanted them to be as happy as we could make them. And that's always a challenge, but the bottom line is we have really good people here, and we have people that listen to clients in terms of what the issue is, try to solve the issue, and in some cases you've got to solve what causes the issue. So for me, when those clients give us those testimonials, that is the best thing that can happen. Ultimately, the worst case situation is when you have to terminate an employee. That was not something that I ever wanted to do, and certainly as a business owner, I'm not saying that we've had to do it over the years, but we really try to hire well. We try to give our employees every opportunity to be successful. But when you do have to ask somebody to leave, that's got to be handled a certain way. And I always look at it as if the shoe was on the other foot, how would I want to be treated if I was being terminated? So that's what we do, is we try to really look at it very cautiously and say, okay, if this has to happen, this is the process we have to follow, and make sure that it's not a big surprise for us or for the employee. If you think you're interested in IT, a good pathway for you might be to, number one, take some aptitude tests. See if that's what others might decide that might be a good path for you to look at. Then the next thing is to try to take some classes and some schooling in that major without committing whole hog. You don't have to necessarily get into the the business, you can take some classes and find out, do you like it? Do you do well at it? You know, you need to be able to have, not just like something, you should have an aptitude for it if you want to be successful. The third part of it for me would be, if that's the case and you seem to enjoy it, then for sure take a look at the different technical schools that we have. We have a lot of good technical schools here that have different types of IT programs. Whether it's network management, or in some cases cybersecurity is becoming a very big part of the business. Most businesses are very concerned about cybersecurity, and it's never a bad idea to have some classwork in that to see if you really kind of function better on trying to be preventative and try to prevent problems from happening, or are you more of a reactive person and you want to fix problems that have already occurred. So there is some different pathways within IT that you could look at. When I was in middle school, I was pretty precocious. I certainly wasn't like a typical anything. I wasn't a typical jock. I wasn't a typical nerd. I kind of fit in with a lot of different groups of people. I had friends from all walks of the socioeconomic ladder. I mean, I literally had friends that were very wealthy, and I had friends that were very, very poor. When I look at what was I like, probably I was very social. That's not changed. I enjoyed my friendships. I enjoyed being involved in lots of activities. I definitely I had jobs. I was involved in extracurricular things. Like I said, I was working pretty early on, so I liked making money because I knew for me making money meant getting those things that I wanted to buy. I really enjoyed, like I said, going to all kinds of activities, whether they were sport activities or others, because of the social aspect. And that's never changed. I certainly like to be out and about. I'm really not a homebody at all. I did have the opportunity, like I said, through various school and other organizations, I had the opportunity to do some neat and interesting things. But probably for me, like I said, I was very big into sports. I mean, I played football. I probably, had I given it more of a chance, I would have probably enjoyed wrestling. But I just didn't, for whatever reason, I didn't click with the wrestling team. I did try out for the team. I didn't stick it out. And that's a regret. I think I probably would have been okay. I don't think I would have been a superstar, but I would have been okay if I just applied the same will to win that I had on the football field. If I applied that to wrestling, I probably would have been okay. I just didn't have that same push. That being said, I was very involved in, like I said, lots of different things. And I pride myself that I was working pretty early on, trying to do things that could lessen the load on my parents. Pretty much all of the things I wanted to do that were extra expenses, I paid for. So it was a good time, and I enjoyed it, but I was pretty active. My favorite subject was really English, and even though I'm not going to say I was like, I certainly wasn't a writing savant. I didn't like enjoy the writing at that point, but when I wrote, I tried to write succinctly. I tried to write, I tried to write least amount of words to get the point across, right? Now, some people might say that's lazy. I say that was me working smart, because I didn't want to write 750 words when 600 words would get it done. And as long as the teacher was okay with 600 words, I was good. To this day, I write more than I ever thought I would. I will tell you, especially with the internet and things we were doing, I write emails. I am the designated letter writer, or if I have to communicate something that's particularly complicated, usually I get that duty, and then I have other people review it before I send it off. But I will tell you that and back in the day they didn't have keyboarding, it was actually typewriting. We were forced at my school to take typewriting, and I hated it, But boy, do I really enjoy the fact that today I have a skill that I can type things much faster than my other coworkers. Not always without error, but the good news is you have spell check. For me, it was about earning money to buy stuff, to buy things. And I did that. You know, and I remember buying a telescope, and I remember buying a bike, you know, and that was great. And those were things that most likely I wouldn't have gotten any other way. But now, when I look back, I wish I had spent more time on experiences, on things that I would remember, because the things, they get old, they get out of date, or they get lost, or something happens to them, whereas those experiences, you never lose those. And today, I'm looking at more of how I spend my time, how I spend my money in terms of experiences and things that I can do that have a long-term impact, as opposed to a thing that probably won't.